welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker here with a tea to taste, explore, try, work out your talents as far as develop your skills of appreciating different teas, teas that haven't had any flavor added to them, haven't had anything blended into them. I'm scooping in enough here. I'm going to cover the bottom, say inch and a half diameter of my 3-ounce Taiwan. That looks pretty good. This is a balled or rolled Oolong, and so it's going to expand quite a bit. So that when you kind of work that out, that looks pretty good. Water has been brought to I'd say a close boil, close to a full boil. It's been cooling for a little bit now, so it's still got plenty of heat. And I'm moving around. I want all the tea leaves to come in contact, all the surface of all the leaves to come in contact with water. So I want to swirl and move around some. I don't want partially dry leaves resting, floating on top of the water. Actually, I need just a little splash more because I want a little water just above the rim of the lid. That keeps out air, which means air doesn't get in and oxidize, change the color too much of the liquor until I'm ready to taste it. So letting that kind of sit and steep for a moment, introduce this tea. This is from Teavivre. This is their Taiwan High Mountain Oolong. You can get 14-gram sample, which is 2 actual 7-gram packages for $3 US. Information on the product page tells us this particular high mountain tea comes from Mingjian village in Nantou County, Taiwan. It was harvested May 2013. Now that's for oolongs and for mini teas. 1 year is not any kind of flaw, drawback, anything to be necessarily thinking twice about. Some teas actually, when they're roasted, actually need to be set aside for periods of time to kind of let that roasty element balance out, dissipate some. So something to think about. Talking about this tea, I want to get into the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor. Starting off here with the dry. Give this a shake and a smell. As an oolong, you can get more darker, you can get lighter roastings. You can get different levels of oxidation. This one has more of a lighter, more floral fragrance. It's got the English laurel kind of shrub, woody, yet with little white flowers on it. It's also got a little flash I detect here and there, something almost like a bit of lilac, a little bit of narcissus, something in that kind of sweet, fragrant floral area. Still that woody element I mentioned as well, stemmy, woody, shrubby type element coming out as well. Some people might call that grapevine smell, the vegetable vine. Looking at these leaves, you can see one, they're smaller in size. They're not larger like you see with 2-3 leaf bud sets. With more mature leaves, you can have larger size balls or rolls here. These are a lighter green, almost a bit of green yellow. You can see some stems, so it does appear that some of these are more than one leaf rolled together. Very tight, very compact. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that and find out more probably when we look at the wet leaf and the liquor. So to do that, angle my lid over to the side so that the water level kind of falls back down into the Taiwan some. Get my pitcher ready. Middle finger and thumb holding the Taiwan there. Index finger keeps the lid in place. A nice smooth pour, holding on to the rim. Don't want to get into the bowl because that's going to get hot fast on your fingertips. Shake out those last few drops. And I think I'm going to give this a little shake. Let some of those leaves kind of settle back down towards the bottom there. Now I can give this wet leaf a smell. Beanie element was the first thing that came. It had a flash of kind of a graham crackery kind of smell. So again, it's a little bit of that kind of toasty, bready. It's a nice element there. Baked element, lightly baked. Now it's picking up a little bit more in the sweetness. A tinge of kind of honey roasted peanut, so I get a little bit more of the bakey, roasty kind of element. A bit of lilac floral sweetness still coming out too. So, honey sweetness, graham cracker sweetness, floral sweetness, all those kind of converging, creating a nice, rich, pleasant. The initial beaniness dropped off fairly quickly. I get a beanie note, and again, this is more like a lima, cooked lima bean kind of smell, depending on how heat has been applied to different leaves. I'm going to take out a few pieces of leaf stuck to the lid there, but I kind of want to start from scratch here and pull out, for an example. Here's a leaf, probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches in length. You can see the blotchy oxidation rust spots. Actually, it's got a fairly consistent along the edge of this leaf. You can still see the jagged teeth which make up the natural edge of this leaf, and consistent in depth. It doesn't vary so that you've got some places where it's receded in more into the center of the leaf and other places where it's less. Fairly consistent, a nice even band along the edge there, which is nice. Delicate leaf, fairly thin. And so because of the way that these get rolled, pressed, well, not pressed, but the way rattled or withered, they get tumbled or shaken in many cases. They get pressed or squeezed in the rolling process. They get shaken apart then. After they've been rolled, you got to loosen them back up. So all this process can create some kind of rough, ragged leaf edges. I've got here a 1-2 leaf and a bud or tip there. One of these leaves has not fully unfurled. Considering that there's all one rolled pearl, or not really pearl, but ball. This must have been the inner part, which is kind of a positive sign. This still has more to unfurl, and that unfurling means more gradual flavor, liquor flavor release components, elements of the tea are getting released not all at once. So some positive notes looking at these particular wet leaves, but going to move on now and get into the liquor here, holding that kind of up to the light. That's a bright yellow color. That's yellow, almost even a tinge towards yellow-green. So that's a nice, deep, rich color there, a bright color. Color that you often see with more lightly oxidized, more lightly roasted oolongs. If it's roasted, it can get more of a caramelly type color. Looks good in the cup. Still the dominant components coming out right now that have been mentioned before. The English laurel, a bit of sweetness, a bit of, again, kind of narcissus, or rather hyacinth, lilac. I might even put an element of this in that realm of boiled corn, sweet corn. There's that kind of sweetness there. Lighter elements here in the actual pitcher. More, if anything, the dominant here is still the English laurel, the shrub, the woody, sweet stem, grapevine, maybe kind of element. I'm waiting to see what happens as this tea cools, what kind of picks up, what elements kind of fall or drop. Texture, it's got a very gentle, very light astringency, which fits into the mouthfeel quite well. So you don't get a very thick, heavy, I would say they call this a light, brothy mouthfeel. So you do have some texture there. It does rest more so on the top and front of the tongue. Less so in the back right now. Maybe as this cools, there will be some fluctuation there. Let's see what kind of changes might take place here. Picking up in the mouthfeel. Now, especially is that element there, that sip, filling up the back of the mouth, resting in the lower back, right at kind of on top of my jawbone right there, underneath the tongue, and it's just kind of a swelling feel, richness, thickness that's just kind of feels like it's swelling up inside and expanding in my mouth. So that's a kind of a positive note. Not so much resting and moving down the throat that much. Looking at this tea as a whole, nice components. Look at something to think about as a cooler tea. Something to think about possibly if you want to try cold brewing. This tea might be a good candidate for experimenting with that. Overall, this tea. Not the most pronounced, not necessarily the most complex either. So I would give this one an 88. Some nice components, a mouthfeel that picked up there towards the end. But again, something that may be good for these coming hot summer days. Come back to Walker Tea Review. Find out more about Taiwanese oolongs, about teas generally. Single origin artisanal teas from a wider spectrum. Sign up for the newsletters. You can get tea reviews like this delivered directly into your email. Also subscribe to the subscription area so you can get more in-depth articles and more and deeper information at Walker Tea Review.